You look at me, I've tried to be as open as I can. Why don't you look at me? I'm tired of being the invisible man. The invisible man. Oh, the invisible man.
Well, hello everyone and welcome to another edition of The Invisible Man. We've got a great show lined up for you. But before we go, I just want to encourage you all to like the stream, whichever platform you're watching on, share, subscribe and all that other good stuff. So thanks. My name is Mark David Stallard and and with me as usual is Ryan Jans. How you doing, Ryan?
Not too bad. Mark, your background is a little bit more darker and blue than normal. A little bit more of a moody feel there, or
yes, it's a moody blues feel. I mean, if you
the moody blues.
Yeah, it was during the song club last week. I noticed that Angela's was looking way more vibrant camera than mine looked a bit flat, so I figured I'll do something up. So I bought a blue bulb and turned the lights off in there and the rest of the room. So we're good.
It did not go unnoticed, just so that you know. I wanted to make sure that you didn't. It did go noticed. We didn't have time. We had some issues to work through.
Well, let's bore the audience by saying we had some technical issues. Yes, like we do every week.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So bear with us. My computer's been doing some crazy things of late, so hopefully we'll get through the hour. But not talk about that anymore because I don't want to jinx it.
Precisely. We already had a discussion about that.
Hey, just want to say hi to Shalim and Chris Halady have joined us already. Thanks so much. Nice seeing you guys again. Okay, let's get our guests in on the conversation, shall we? So, a disruption from on high. A blast of cross signals, a coming together of sounds we know in different contexts, colliding in the creation of something unexpected. This five-piece pulls influences from so many areas of music and so defy easy categorization, although alternative soul rock has been used in the past in an attempt to pin them down. Now, there are many bands in Winnipeg, but today's guest doesn't sound like any of them. So here they are, Rooftop Static. How you doing, guys?
Good. Very good. Mark, you should, will you agree to narrate all our introductions? That was pretty impressive, I gotta say.
I would love to.
You do sound like the guy that does Planet Earth.
David Attenborough, yeah, there you go.
Yes.
I could try and do a David Attenborough impression, but I sound better after I've had a couple of drinks.
I gotta say that is much better. Before our guest joined us, I obviously come in a little bit earlier. We do some mic tests, and I usually will just read the first opening, and it was so much better. I felt sounded like Paul Harvey, or like device from on high with cross signal this unique band has. That's my latest in my round of bad impressions that I can tuck in.
Yes, and he's got lots and lots of those. As do I. Okay, so we gave the general introduction, but how about a more personal introduction? So Ross and Scott, why don't you just take it in turns and just tell us a little bit about yourselves?
You go ahead. Okay. We didn't organize who was going to speak first. So I'm Scott Hinkson. I am lead vocals in this project. A little bit about myself. I guess I've been in the Winnipeg music scene, kicking tires in a number of different bands, probably starting in the mid-90s to now, even under my own name as well. And we'll probably get to how Russ and I know each other, but this is a second project for us, and I think this project we've been playing together with ourselves as well as some of the other band members now for about, I think it's 9 years this year, something like that. So that's a little bit about me.
Russ Chan here, guitarist for Rooftop Static. In the same boat with Scott's. Started my music career in the mid-90s. Been playing in a lot of bands locally in Winnipeg. Just pretty much, all I do now is just try to write music so Scott can sing to it and come up with an amazing melody. So that's who I am. And the missing members for our band is Patrick Farr, who's our bass player. I've been playing with Patrick for over 15 years in multiple projects. Another project we played with Scott in. And then our keyboardist, Paula Kirkland, she's a music teacher, but then also she is our keyboardist, singer, saxophonist. She's bringing new instruments to our new material. We'll talk about that later. And then our drummer, Adrian Kislik. He's been in the band for a few years now. And yeah, that's pretty much the history of our band.
Excellent. Well, I think the first question we have to... the first question I have to ask is, why the name Rooftop Static?
Want me to go?
Came up with the name.
So it's a great question. I think we, like I said, we've been around probably since I think 2013. So maybe it's 8 years. Maybe I'm bad at counting. I don't know. I'll figure it out one day. We rehearse at the top of the Grain Exchange building, which we're at right now. So behind us here is our jam space. It's a shared space, typically pre-COVID with other bands, but right now I think we're the only band in it that's occupying the space. There's a number of different actual rooms like this where a number of different bands rehearse throughout the weeks in this building. And in our particular location, you can see that there's light coming through the windows on the other side here. We can actually walk out onto the roof and have a fantastic view of Winnipeg. And so, many a times during our rehearsal nights, we'll open up the window, and in the summertime, it's really nice to walk out, take a look at Winnipeg, because you're sort of at equal platitudes with the skyline. And I suppose, so that's the rooftop piece of the story. The static piece is sort of an analogy to noise, right? And noise, let's call it, maybe I was thinking a little bit about what my parents thought of my music back in the day. They'd present noise, but noise music, right? So to me, the concepts were, here we are on the rooftop, we're creating some form of static. We call that static music. So, and the two words sounded really good together. I think we had a few different concepts that were shortlisted, but the trick, as you guys know, the trick with band names is you want to pick something that is generally what I like to call benign. Like, it doesn't get a ton of reaction from people negatively, right? And if it's like, okay, cool, that no big deal, or yeah, that sounds cool, that's usually a good band name. So yeah, we all liked it. It didn't really have any sort of negative meanings to any of us, and resonated. It sounded catchy. So there you go.
Nice. Yeah, it's actually it's also a name
I gotta jump in here real quick there, Mark. The one question that comes to mind, well, actually I have two questions that come to mind, is one, how were you able to hold on to a drummer for so long? Because drummers seem to be the most transient of all musicians. So I'm really impressed if you say he's played with you for a couple of years. That's well done. And the second question would be, my biggest phobia about being in a band was like you get together, you rehearse, you play. Yeah, this is good. We start maybe writing a song or two, and then it comes down to that inevitable practice where you have to name yourself, and then you throw out all kinds of stupid names and good names and bad names and everything, the whole gamut, and you decide on a name, and then that's it. The band is done. It just is. Did you guys have any reservations about that when because that happened to a couple of different bands that I've played in. So it's always when Mark and I sat down and he came up with the term "it's all in the mind." I was like, uh oh, but here we are. 7 years later, and we're still playing under that title. So yay.
Yeah, more than that. Yeah,
I'll let you take those.
Well, I'll take the first question, and I'll let Scott answer the second one. So the first question is how have we managed to hold on to a drummer that long? Well, actually, we've had 3 drummers in this project. But this is our longest standing drummer. So originally this project was, it turned into an old project of mine. And basically, I brought Patrick in towards the tail end of the previous project. And then the drummer of that project, he had to move to Edmonton. The singer, she was pregnant, so she just had to leave altogether. And then, we had the keyboardist continue on. And basically, we were a completely different band back then, different drummer. And it was just basically friends that we knew, that I played with on the circuit for years. Just invited them into this project. We got together. It took us a little while to find our flow. And then afterwards, when Scott, Patrick, and I were like identifying like, hey, there's chemistry amongst us, that's where we started to like figure out, okay, this is the way our music is going to be paved. So our first drummer, we just pretty much had to part ways, move forward. We ended up finding a great cover band drummer. His name's Adam. He just came in and he just picked up everything extremely fast. And we were in the middle of recording our first album. And pretty much Adam agreed that he just wanted to come into a project, be in his first original project, play on first band ever, and record, be a part of the CD. And that was pretty much it. So then afterwards, we parted ways with Adam, and then we ended up finding Adrian. So Adrian's been in the project probably 4 years now, or maybe 3 years. So that's pretty much the history. If the band is 7 or 8 years old, Adrian's been with us. He's been committed. He's been a great musician in this project. And I'll say, like, he is probably the fort and the creative, what am I looking for? The creative spark in our project right now.
Nice. Excellent. That's
yeah,
good.
and going to your second question regarding naming, we did have that awkward moment. It was exactly like you called out, Ryan, where it's like, you got a whole bunch of songs. We're about to do something with this. Like, we're about to play gigs, right? So we need to name ourselves. And we had that night where come up with a short list of names. And I think the band was looking for me to come up with a lot of them. And some of my previous projects, other members would tell you I'm not so great with titles. Good with lyrics and harmonies, but and melodies, not so great with titles. But anyways, I think we came upon it pretty quickly, actually. But the good news is the band hasn't fallen apart. And as you can tell with Russ and I, in terms of time periods, like 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, we're not so good at remembering those type of details. Like, how long have you been together? How long has it been in the project? So, anyways, good questions.
Yeah, right on.
Great. Okay, we have some questions from the audience, actually. Shaleem says that he bought a digital download of the new album, Liminal Spaces. A question he has is, how tough was it to create songs during lockdown? Was there lots of sending files back and forth over the internet?
Yeah, it's a great question. Really what happened was this. So last December of 2019, myself and Adrian came in and recorded the drums here. We had the foundations of the tunes here. I think we're really privileged that we had all the songs written and well rehearsed prior to the album starting. And so what we did then was, prior to really the pandemic coming into full force, which I think we're celebrating, and a year's anniversary for many of us, right?
Yep.
I had Paula, Russ, Pat, sort of do one-off sessions with myself in my recording studio, or I went to Russ's place in sort of a safe, controlled manner. I think, Russ, you were the last, and the pandemic was sort of unfolding at that point in time. But I think fortunately, because I did have my own sort of gear and equipment, we were able to do it no problem. And then fast forward to, I would say, April or May of last year, all the main recording pieces were done. and it was just a matter of mixing and then sending the tunes out for the band's deliberation on, hey, I like that mix, or hey, that's too loud, or that's too quiet. And we were able to sort of work off a Dropbox really for sort of the post-production type of activities, all the way till I think the album was done in July of last year. And probably the longest piece of time after that was just sort of deliberating on finding somebody who can do artwork for us and getting that album artwork in place.
Nice. Yes, so further questions from the audience. What is the music creation process like?
Well, because I mentioned Adrian, that he's like our creative spark in this project. Scott and I are kind of used to always being a hands-on type of approach where we like to be in control of writing. When I did start this project with Patrick and the other members, basically no one would go home, bring a song to this project. I was trying to change the dynamic of being in a project generally, and it was just really right on the spots and just jam. And if there was something out of the jam that Scott likes, and he's like, hey, I like this chord progression, or, this riff sounds great, I could come up with a melodic line, no problem, then basically that's how we write our music. But with Adrian coming to this project, he kind of changed our direction from the first album going to the second album. And, usually how we write is Adrian will just go behind the drum kit, start drumming away. And I've never heard these type of beats that he comes up with. Not really familiar with his music's collection that he listens to. He mentions a lot of bands I've never heard in my life. And he's just rat-tat-tat, and it's all of a sudden I'm like, I'm challenged. So Patrick and I are right away, we're just like, wow, let's see if we could come up with something rhythmically to go on top of that. And then if the three of us kind of agree, and Paula's, finding her groove in there too, then we present it to Scott, and if Scott likes it, then it's pretty much a go afterwards. And then we start constructing it, just playing it over and over, and then just have usually a format that we kind of follow, but then it just really depends on the vibe of the song. So if it's like a jazzy song, we know what to do with it. If it's like a rock song, we know what type of format we want to put it into. If it's an alternative indie song, we just know where we want to go with it. So pretty much that's how all our songs come about.
Hey, excellent. Did you have any question there, Ron?
I was just giving it a sec there. I was just looking through some comments. Shalim has said he loves Inside a Ghost and Slave Face. He said, asking how did they come together? They sound like singles. So what do you think, guys? You got some airplay coming, or?
That's well, thank you first of all for the comments. That's pretty positive feedback. Yeah, I mean, actually, those two particular songs, ironically, are two of the top picks. I don't know why I said that. Picks for singles. I think that the challenge we've had is probably like many bands that were working on an album during the pandemic. It's a bit of a push-pull experience. So I'm going to take you back to July, where things were starting to open up again, right? Winnipeg was looking good. People were out on patios. I think there was a short window of time where people were going to bars and maybe hearing music. Probably not at the capacity we were all used to. So we were trying to figure out, okay, if things continue this way, could we pull off a CD release? And to the single comment, typically what you would want to do is then pick a single and then start advertising that, getting airplay in your local city, and if you can, even at a national level. And so we were ready. Like, we started calling up a whole bunch of different places. We had a Halloween party in mind, which is why actually we chose the end of October for our CD release. Inside a Ghost was an actual great tune for that. You're starting to see some conceptual sort of ties, right? And we had to put pause on it, right? Because end of October, things started shutting down again. So I think what you'll see from us is when the timing's right, we're going to be picking Safe Face, likely Inside a Ghost. There's a couple others on there, like I think, I don't want to say too much, but Red Room and others that I think we have it in our heads as, maybe they are singles, and maybe we'll try to get some airplay around the city. But we're, like many bands, we're trying to figure out what's the right timing to make that big media push, because as many of you guys know on the podcast, as well as Ryan and Mark, it's all about timing and creating that positive momentum. And so right now, it didn't feel like it was a good time to push.
Nice.
Oh,
Okay, so we are about 20 minutes in. I think that would be a good time to get you guys to play a song.
Sure. We'd love to.
So I will switch over, give you guys I'll give you guys the floor. And Ryan, if you want to turn your... Oh, he did already. Okay, it's all yours. Take over.
Yeah, we'll do a new one from the album. This one's called Keep Chasing. Keep chasing all my friends. It must be some disease. What the hell's wrong with me? It's wrong, it's gone, it's wrong. Keep finding all these ends. I wanted beginnings. Send me much more of them. Come on, come on, come on. I wanna burn these signs that's making my head low. I wanna cut these ties and fall from above. Keep tracing all these lines, just like a police scene. Who died inside of them? The bond, the bond, the bond. I keep finding all these ends. I wanted beginnings. Send me much more of them. I wanna burn these signs that's making my head low. I wanna cut these signs and fall more from above. Yeah, we're so unusual. I wanna turn back time and find my reinstall. Do they hide away, conspiring their nerves? Do they hide away, conspiring their nerves? Keep chasing, keep chasing, keep chasing.
That was excellent. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
It's a great tune. So one of the questions that come to mind here, I guess Mark has just stepped away from his computer, so we'll continue this on while he's here. Oh, there he is. He's back. Is he muted or is he?
No, I'm still here.
He was.
Okay, good. Good.
He was so blown away. He needed a moment.
There you go.
I was.
You had to get a tissue.
I wasn't asleep.
Wipe away that tear.
So I gotta ask. This doesn't happen a whole lot because usually Mark and I play we have a very similar process to how you guys described. We'll jam, we'll write something, or maybe we have a bit of a song that one of us has kind of come up with, and the other one will say, yeah, okay, and then we'll just sort of add to it. Is there anything that, Russ, is there anything that you've just come up with, chord or progression-wise, where Scott's gone and looked and says, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do with that? Because Mark came to me, I'll share after, but Mark and I have a bit of a thing that just actually happened recently with a song that we're working on. So,
well, to answer that question, I'm kind of mindful of my chord progressions in how I present them to Scott. If Scott met me like 20 years ago, he would be saying what you just said there. Like, I don't know what to write on top of that guitar riff. It's too complex. It's a polychord. There's just too much going on in there. Where can I put my melodic line? So I don't know if it's like the evolution of me as a musician where, I decided, you know what, I just want to change my approach and be sparse and just play like less is more. And with this project, like the main thing for me is always making sure that the bass and drums are the forefront for the song, and they're holding the groove and the jam.
Yeah.
And I'm just like the icing on the cake, like I'm just trying to put something like highlights the chord progression. I'm not doing too much. The song that we just played, it's strictly all chords, whole note chords throughout the song, but that's how simple I play. Other stuff on the album is just a lot of sound effects or little ditties that I'm just trying to fill in. But with this project, I'm very mindful that I want the bass and drums to be like the heartbeats for each song. And that's what I get off of just like, hey, I love bass and drums. I just want to hear them all day long. Guitar, I'll find my moments, my spotlight when I need to noodle, or I really need to hold down that chord, or with Paula too. We just pretty much, both of us are in the same position of just, hey, we're the highlighters of the music, and really just give a lot of space for Scott to just breathe and sing.
Right on.
Excellent.
Yeah, in fact, most of the time I never get really any kind of feedback, but about, oh no, well, we can't do that. Or we always find a way to work through it. I just remember when I had written a bass riff and had written a list of lyrics. I'm not usually a lyricist, right? I don't usually write. I stick to just writing bass lines and kind of getting the core of the song. But I had written this sort of little bit of poetry, and Mark goes, well, I said I want it to sound this way, and I played him the riff, and then because we were just chatting back and forth on there, and I said, I want this to be the core of the song, and I kind of want this to be sort of almost like a spoken word. And he goes, well, I can't rap.
You don't want me to rap, really.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. You can add melody to it, but this is the structure that I wanted to say, and change. Feel free to change what you use, because there's nothing here that I'm so stuck on, but like that was like the first time in 7 years that I've ever heard anything like, oh, what am I supposed to do with that? Now I don't know how many times he's thought that, but that's really the first time he's voiced it.
I guess Scott could put his from his offer your opinion, your feedback on that. Do we ever challenge you at all?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple songs that I've had where I'm like, to be honest, I'm like, I got nothing here. I think we should move on. And I think the band is probably, on those occasions I can think of, has pressed on me and said, like, dig deeper. Like, go. Like, we want to keep it. And so it's kind of, that's the challenge of being in a project. Like I said at the top of the call, I do my own music. So that's much easier to write to because it's come from me. It's natural, right? So the challenge is when you hear somebody else's creation, you have to collaborate with them. You have to get into their headspace and take your own approach and try to find out how to write to it. It's a bit more difficult, but at times it's, super challenging and gratifying if you can solve that problem, right? And so there's been times where I thought, I'm going to give up on this one. I got nothing, but it's turned out to be something I loved.
Yeah.
Nice.
So did you find then when you're in those difficult situations that that just giving it a bit of a break and you come back to it, then something new presents itself?
Yeah, for me, that's important, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things these guys have been used to me understanding is I can't. We record all our demos every night, and then we throw them up on a Dropbox so that we don't forget the ideas if we're songwriting. And if I hear a demo with some sort of scatting or a melody that I hate, I can't listen to it, because what happens is that melody will become impregnated in my brain and I'll have to actually unlearn it. So the key for me is actually hearing the version of the music without me singing, so I can come up with something different or new.
That's good. That's a good idea. Oh, some comments from the audience about the song. We have Chris Lady says, "Sweetness, make the rooftop the new blue note." And Shalim says, "Clap, clap, clap." So a couple of fans
Great,
out there.
thanks.
Yeah, some more audience questions. Are kind of on fire here today. Are there themes in your songs that might surprise first-time listeners? And second part of that is, what inspires your writing?
So I think I'll start with the music first and then go to the lyrics. So I think there's some musical turns and twists that we take that would surprise our listeners. So when you read our sort of bio at the top of the call, Mark, part of what we pride ourselves on is we're a bit of not a complete hodgepodge collection of influences or genres, but very deliberately taking pieces of pop, rock, soul, funk, R&B, and jazz and melding it. And so I think from a musical perspective, what you can expect is we may verge very heavily into prog rock sometimes, but then other tunes like that on the album are very, how would you position it, like R&B, sort of jazz, soul type of stuff. We've got a song on our first album, reminds me of something that the Temptations would have done. Like it's very sort of all over the place. I think driven primarily through a rhythmic and rhythm section point of view, and then to Russ's point, layered on everything else afterwards. So I think there's probably some surprises in our tunes there. Obviously, one of the things we try to do, I think more so in this last album, is create surprises and breaks, maybe in songs where you wouldn't expect it, where all of a sudden, the music ducks out to give up one instrument to be showcased. Or, maybe just some stylistic changes as well. On the lyric side, on the inspiration piece, it's a great question. I think this last album, I don't know. I think it's been a little bit more deliberate on perhaps influences of still being at the age I'm at, which I'm not going to disclose, by the way.
21?
And just sort of navigating the world that we're fitting in. The world's changing. I think, all of us, irrespective of whatever age we're at, we're all trying to figure out, where are we going? How are things changing? What are our relationships like? Are they good relationships? I maybe over embellishing and fantasizing on deconstructing and decomposing bad ones or even good ones. Personal and self-sabotage, those type of things. So I think maybe from a lyric perspective, that's where I tend to gravitate towards.
Okay, nice. Have you guys always been interested in music? Years ago, was there a particular song / performance that made you say, "Whoa, I want to do that"? That question was from Schling again.
Great. I missed out on that question.
So have you guys always been interested in music? And years ago, was there a particular song or performance that made you say, "Whoa, I want to do that"?
Actually, I'll answer this question. Basically, I hope everyone's familiar with the classic 80s R&B band Sade. Basically, they get together and write an album once every 10 years. And back in 2011, I believe, they were playing in Las Vegas. I pretty much bought a ticket, went to Las Vegas by myself, and I watched that show from beginning to end, and I was in awe with that band. And after that concert, I was just like, I want to go in a direction like that, where knowing that the band Sade wrote music in the 80s, and they're still playing it to this day, their music is very timeless. And I think that was the turning point for me as a musician of, hey, I got to change my approach. I want to try something different. I've always been in rock bands or alternative rock bands. And it was just really trying to learn, like with this one particular band that influenced me big time, where it was just like, no, it's all about the rhythm, the groove, being sparse, letting the singer just like fill up the room. And yeah, after that, it took me a couple of years to just dissect their music inside out. And pretty much I wanted to play with a keyboardist in the new project. And yes, we do have a keyboardist. And I wanted an ensemble, an orchestrated sound. So I didn't want another guitarist in the project, nor did I want to play too much on guitar. And yeah, this project right now is, you know, kind of what I witnessed and morphed into. And it was just, that was pretty much the turning point for me. And knowing that I knew Scott and Patrick for years now, they were great complementary pieces, and the great bandmates too to work with. We don't really need to say that much to each other. We just get each other in a musical way. It's either Scott will just look at me and he's like totally down with this song riff, how the song's going, or vice versa. With Patrick, my relationship with him, we've never had to really talk about what works. We just get each other. So, yeah, the three of us, fantastic. With Paula and Adrian, they're also great complementary pieces, and they've helped move us forward and added their own flavors and kind of twisted our genre to be very open to playing multiple styles.
Okay, excellent. Ryan, did you have a question?
Yeah. We'll give it a second there. You seem to be getting a little echo back from you guys there.
I'm not sure why.
Yeah, I think there we go. It sort of cleared itself up. So interesting you were talking about alternative rock there. And of course, we can't talk about alternative rock in Winnipeg without discussing the zoo. And unfortunately now the zoo is no longer the zoo anymore. It's more like a hole in the ground. But do you guys have any memories or any just one of those fun, sort of weird fun moments? Because I've played at the zoo numerous times, and we all have these sort of mixed fun, weird kind of memories of the zoo. Would you guys care to elaborate on anything that you may have experienced? Well, experienced is the word. Experienced.
You know something about Scott and I from the zoo? Just want to know, because we do have a story, but I'll let Scott tell it, his version of it.
Everybody's got a zoo story. Everybody's got a zoo story.
Is it? Yeah. No, I wouldn't tell that story, but I'll let you tell that story. I don't remember much about that. Sorry, there was one show that I'll say this. It was with a different project. I'm not going to name names of the sound guy at the time, but he set the levels and he walked away during the entire set. And one of the things I tend to be a singer who needs to hear quite a bit of his vocals through the monitor.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think this song was showcased by breaks of me saying more vocals in the monitor, please. And then it wasn't until about the third or fourth song that I noticed he was playing VLTs and eating a plate of food at the back, and I'm like, all right, I guess this is our show right now. And the only other thing I'll mention about the zoo is I saw this. I went with a couple of friends to see this crazy heavy metal band. I think they're out of Finland, called Fintroll, and that was just a wild, crazy show. Really enjoyed that. Go ahead.
Well, I guess I have two quick stories about the zoo. The first time I've encountered Scott was he did a solo performance at the zoo, and I was in the audience. I can't remember the band that he opened up for. I don't know if it was Jets. No, it wasn't Jets.
I can't remember. That would have been a long time ago.
Yeah, we're talking about a good 15, 20 years ago. Yeah, so basically I remembered Scott pulled out a violin bow and he started to like play it like Jimmy Page. I wasn't formally introduced to him at that time, but I was just like, oh, this guy can sing and he's trying all these weird things on the stage. Okay. So I knew of him through, well, basically we just have kind of common friends. And then my second story is actually our first band that Scott, Patrick, and I played in. It was a short project. It's called Answers in Green. It took us a year to write like almost an album's worth of material to prep ourselves up to play live. And our only one show that we played was at the zoo. And basically, the monitors, the house speakers, were not projecting at all. So the sound guy just didn't know how to fix the situation at all. So we had to take our monitors on the stage, flip them the other way around so the audience can hear. And we couldn't play at all. So we didn't hear anything at all. So me, Patrick, and Scott, we were just like, wow, we're just going in blind for our first show. And that was actually our one and only show that we did in Answers in Green. Because like shortly after, yeah, we kind of, you know.
The drummer told us it wasn't a fit for him.
Yeah. So I don't know if that experience for him, he was just like, what? No monitors? I quit. So yeah, pretty much that was my second zoo story. But I've seen a lot of weird things. I mean, besides the zoo, I could tell you stories about Aussies too that was in the basement, but that building was great.
You think the guy who did who botched your sound and wouldn't do monitor mixes in the zoo? I think he migrated down to Aussies because we had a sound guy who was like that once. We played a new Music Wednesday for Manitoba Music at Aussies.
No, it was a different day. It wasn't that show.
Oh, was that one?
Yeah, we were headlining that one.
Oh, that's right. And this guy, you couldn't ask him. Like, you'd be like, hey, can we get a little bit more of this? No, you don't need it. Or what was it? He's like, hey, do you want to hear our vocals and our levels? He's like, no, I'll just mix it as you go.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah,
I've done sound work. Never. I'm not that brazen. Like, even with bands that I've done sound
and our drummer at the time.
Lots,
and our drummer at the time, the monitor wasn't working as well, so he couldn't hear what we were doing. Which really put me off because he was just a little bit out. So, and didn't realize till the end that he couldn't hear us. Anyhow, that's the way it is.
But he was a pro. He was just such a pro. He just kept going. Never made a gripe or anything. He just did absolutely everything he could to keep us in time. But it was just like when he said this guy, he was like, okay, I set the levels and then went off and got a plate of food and playing the BLTs. I'm like, oh, I wonder if he went and worked for Aussies.
Okay, we have a question. We have a question, more rather a request from the audience, which is perfect timing because this was exactly the question I was going to ask. Can we hear another song?
Yeah. We'll play one from our first album.
Excellent.
Our first album is, I think it's about 3 years old now, and it's called After Hello. And you can check out all these on Bandcamp. Both the albums are on Bandcamp, right? Yeah, as well as iTunes and Spotify. So this song's called Who You Want to Be. Time when the time grew old, making new
same old songs with the same old themes and the same bad thoughts that remind you of who the hell you want to be. It's time when my heart grew cold, warming up and steering clear of the stones. I'm waking up and all I see is how time drew these lines on me. It's time when you grab my soul. It's the same old songs, same old themes, same bad thoughts that remind who you want to be, who you want to be.
Excellent. Thanks so much, guys. Here we go. So I forgot to mention earlier. Actually, I should have said this earlier, but we have all of the links for Rooftop Static in the description of the video. So if you're on Facebook, look up. If you're on YouTube, look down. And Ryan knows the difference between those two, which is nice. So everything's on there. I think there's links to
every time you say it, I point up and I
think it's Bandcamp and Spotify and all the other good links are all there as well. So go check those out. Yes, I think we've got. There is a related question to Ryan's last question that Shalima is asking. What venues in Winnipeg have you played? And where might we see the band when lockdown is over?
Yeah, great question. So we've played a number of different nights where we've tried to be sort of the house band for Shannon's many, many times. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we've done only 2 sets and we needed an opening act, but it would be not uncommon for us to head there after the pandemic. Usually every year we've been able to get a spot at the Fringe Festival. We really like outdoors festivals, so that's something that obviously we'll be heading to as well. I think we played a number of different venues around the city. I think, Ryan, you had mentioned the Cavern, I think maybe off air, as a place that you've played a few times. We have a lot of fun there. We played, I think it's Friday nights, sometimes some Saturday nights there. Depending on the crowd and the band that we're opening up for, if we're headlining or whatnot, it could be a pretty raucous night with, some dancing and partying. You can't really tell with the setup that we have here, but we've been able to get some people on the dance floor and shake loose a little bit. So that's been quite fun. I really enjoyed playing there. What else am I missing? So I think those would be some of the spots. We played the Pyramid for our last CD release. We haven't really landed on a place as to where we're going to do our next CD release for Liminal Spaces that came out. Anything else you'd add?
Look, Garage.
Yeah.
So just, the normal local pub, lounge places that we're usually playing. Yeah.
Yeah, we've with Mark and I, we've hit up a lot of coffee shops. It was the Loft Gastropub we played there a lot, but it's no longer there. We're you can see that as a recurring theme on our list here. Joe Black Coffee Bar has always been very good to us. Mark's played there a number of times, done a lot of his solo work there. We've played there together. Where else have we've done the Cavern. We did Aussies for a couple of shows at Aussies. In the metal band, I played mostly at the Cavern. We played the Zoo. There's a place, was it called like the Cellar or something? It was terrifying. And that's coming from me playing like regularly at the Cavern in that back room with all the graffiti all over the walls, and having played at the Zoo and watched people get into fights and get kicked out and thrown out. Like, I mean, this is like, okay, no problem. And then I go to the play at the Cellar and it's like, yeah, oh man, like, let's play our show and get out. It was as indie, underground, and like DIY metal punk scene as you could get. And I'm like, yeah, no, let's play and go. This is one of those ones where I was like, yeah, just play and go. Like the green room was literally the beside the boiler.
I think I might have played a show there in a different project. I think we've played in all the places. Well, other than some coffee shops, we've probably played in a lot of different places around the city too. But I think for this project, those the places we mentioned are sort of our sweet spots right now. And we're always trying to get into festivals. Like it's a bit of a cross-pollination opportunity for us to get into Jazz Fest, but we think we could shake it one day if they'd have us. I've got a few lyrics in French for one song. Maybe that gets us a pass into festival one day, but we just like where the party's at, and we just like playing shows. So
yeah.
Nice. There's a couple of comments about your last performance there. Chris Lady says, cool. Schleem says, a very good song. Want to see this band live.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, so you know what? So do I. I'm really looking forward to Fringe. If you guys can get a spot at Fringe Fest, I'll keep an eye out for you guys, because they usually go at least a couple of days out of the performance. So
yeah, I think they're virtual this year though. I could be wrong. Yeah. Maybe they'll. I don't know if they'll change the pros mid-year, but yeah.
I'll still keep an eye out for you regardless.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. That's awesome. Great feedback.
That's excellent. So, so Schleem actually has a comment. You could easily make it into Jazz Festival, and he also has a suggestion. Have you thought about offering merch like T-shirts on your Bandcamp page?
Yeah. We're not there yet. We want to get our merch and things like T-shirts for sure in place. I think that's in parallel with us actually going out and being able to sell them to human beings again. So we thought best to wait off on that and let the band account grow a little bit after a couple shows, and we'll get some T-shirts done. I think it's been something that we've talked about for sure.
And then when you figured out, how to make money at merch and stuff, let me know, because we're looking for somewhere to produce T-shirts and stuff as well.
Merch is always a tricky one, especially T-shirts, right? It's always challenging to figure out how many of what size. And I know for my own stuff at home, I've got like probably a triple XL somewhere sitting at home, or just like a size small, or just something that you never really can figure out the sizes too much. So.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just that; it's just you also have to carry the merch, so you have to purchase it and then you have to turn around and sell it, right? So it's not like Bandcamp where you can just go to Bandcamp and buy when you want. People have a 4-hour window when they see you set up your and your band and your merch table and everything, and then it's like you have to try and sell it, but you don't want to push it on them because then they might not buy it, right? So
yeah.
I think there's a comment for you, Ryan. There's put your kid to work selling merch.
I have a 3-year-old daughter who often will come down the stairs and jump up on Dad's lap. And so, yes, I would very happily throw on get her to wear my Invisible Man T-shirt that's going to be like 5 sizes too big on her. If that gets people
It'll be
buying
like a
it, I would
dress,
very
yeah.
happily do that.
I'm telling you, I think depending how long this all goes, face masks as merch would be something for sure. I've kicked the tires on it for us a little bit. We might pull the trigger on it. Who knows?
Yeah, it'd be nice to have.
Everyone needs face masks.
This is true.
I've looked into it, but it just didn't seem. I mean, you end up in order to use it as a money maker or a money raiser, I should say, you've got to be selling them for like $30-$40 each.
It's the volume game, right? You need to buy a certain quantity. So
and we're looking at maybe
and where
20.
your price breaks aren't always economical for a small band, right? So
yeah. Okay, well, we actually have pretty much reached the top of the hour, which seems to go rather quick as usually does. So we'd like to thank you both for coming out onto the show and spending an hour with us. It's been absolutely fascinating. So thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
And we would especially like to thank Shalim for leading the interview from the comments. So thanks again, Shalim. Always count on you as usual, our what's the word? The unofficial host in the comments, and of course Chris as well, who's been involved in the chat. I haven't seen anyone else's name that I recognise, so I won't. I won't mention those. But I'd like to just remind everybody, all the links for Rooftop Static are in the description. Okay, Ryan, get ready. If you're on Facebook, look up, and if you're on YouTube, look down, and you'll find all the links there ready to go. So thank you very much, and so we'll join you next week at the same time, and I'm not sure, I can't remember who we have on, but we'll see lots of promotion coming out about that. And of course, for those of you like British rock and roll, we have Adam Feasy will be doing the Welcome to the Madhouse on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. in the UK. Okay, thank you very much once again, and we'll catch you all next week. And thanks, guys, for joining us, and we'll catch you all next week. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Awesome.
Oh, the invisible man.